Reserve. Walker's Reserve is a climate-smart laboratory. It's implementing and showcasing green engineering solutions, as well as providing educational services throughout the region. This is all done through a not-for-profit arm called WIRRED, W-I-R-R-E-D. It's a very long acronym. It's Walker's Institute for Regenerative Research, Education, and Design, so we call it WIRRED. This not-for-profit implements and educates this green engineering and the solutions which stack functions. As it's a quite large property, it covers solutions that are geared towards building soil, increasing habitat, growing biodiversity, replenishing and protecting watersheds, fresh watersheds, and sequestering carbon, all while developing a circular economy. So I will go into a quick video presentation, and then I'll go into an additional speech.
So this is Walker's Reserve, a place where we are building a model of regeneration and climate resilience in a 277-acre lab where boundaries are being pushed and solutions are being tested. But before I get too far, let me tell you how we got here. Let me tell you a story about a silica sand mine in the Caribbean that was instrumental in building a nation. So Walker Sand Quarry, or the Sand Hole, as is commonly referred to by Bajans, holds a special place in Bajan history, because for over 50 years it was the only legal sand mine. So every road, every guard wall, every front step has a piece of Walker sand in it. Like all good things, it had to come to an end, and as the aggregate that was used to build the Barbados began to dwindle, the owner and visionary compiled a team and embarked on an awe-inspiring journey of regeneration. So for over a decade, the team has been learning and growing. The vision was first to create a permaculture food forest, but we quickly learned some lessons about the true essence of regeneration. If you put the right plants in the right place at the right time and treat them right, the recipes work like magic, and these are the methods that build resilience. Walker's Reserve is our flagship project that showcases these nature-based solutions, and WIRRED is the NGO that's stewarding this change, sharing the lessons learned, and welcoming you to embark on this journey to connect and reconnect with nature. So the methods that we use are working within and alongside nature to create regenerative models that can be scaled and replicated to increase climate resilience in smaller and developing states. So let's settle into today's presentation with an example of resilience building. Let's talk about our polyculture orchard pattern, or steep slope armoring pattern, and the way habitat health and ecosystem services drive regenerative microenterprises. So the orchard pattern is what helped us to go from dry, barren sand to a food-producing landscape in just a few years. With vetiver grass as a powerhouse in habitat remediation, it stabilizes the unstable terrain, and when coupled with biomass producers, adequate ground cover, and swales for moisture retention, the orchard pattern can be used on a small scale for family gardens, on a larger scale for productive foodscapes. Now the steep slope armoring pattern uses similar techniques, but vetiver, or cuscus grass as is called locally in Barbados, is installed more intensely. We use the steep slope patterning on slopes over 30 degrees. At Walker's Reserve, we've installed over 11.5 linear kilometers of cuscus grass to stop slippage. We've combined the vetiver grass, check dams, and catchment ponds to defend slopes against high-energy rainfall events. There's one example where we received over 6 inches of rain in one night and lost an entire road due to slippage. Since then, we've installed the steep slope pattern and have been able to withstand similar events with just as much rainfall and runoff in a similar amount of time. But Walker's Reserve is about more than just these green engineering feats. It's about the combination of activities that build livelihoods, strengthen partnerships, and provide hope for smaller and developing states in the face of climatic changes.
Great. Thank you. Walker's is without a doubt one of the largest privately run with many NGOs. Let's say example of what we do call climate change laboratory in all the Caribbean. And certainly it's a powerful example of shifting from an extractive economy to a regenerative economy. I think that bringing scalable solutions for sustainability in the face of climate change in the future is the most important conversation we should be having right now of our time. And we talk about sustainability and I love hearing the word green. I love hearing the word sustainable. It's the words we need to be moving us forward, and I was warned not to do this, but I can't help myself, which is I think that we need to be talking about going from sustainable to the word regenerative. Unfortunately, this slide is not as clear as I'd like it to be, but I think you can all see and agree if there's a timeline that's going conventional, green, sustainable, restorative, and regenerative. And within that timeline, I guess people say we're in the green, sustainable timeline of that. That's not me saying that, that's the words that are being used by all the organizations. So let's say that we are in the green, sustainable period of time. So sustainable practices by definition seek to maintain systems without degrading them. Whereas regenerative practices use holistic system thinking, and it looks at how natural systems are currently impacted, and then we come in and we apply techniques, observing nature, observing its patterns, biomimicry, as they call, and then we use restorative systems to replenish them. So think about it this way, sustainable versus regenerative. Think about a credit card or a line of credit. Being sustainable is like making your minimum monthly only interest payments, right? But if you want to bring that account balance down, you're going to need to regenerate that account and put more back in than you took out. And I'll put it one other way. Look at your relationship, your partner, or your marriage. Do you want your marriage to sustain, or do you want it to regenerate? That's where we're at right now. So currently, wired, but we all should believe that when you use the word shareholder, that it means everyone, not a select few, not the persons that have the most to gain. And that successful, sustainable, regenerative development requires multi-sector networks and collaboration, including public, private sectors, institutions, academia, corporations, and of course, the community at the heart. As an entrepreneur and business person who shifted and had my own experience as to really seeing how good business could mean doing good and doing well. It doesn't have to be extractive. It doesn't have to be a I win, you lose situation as we currently seem to be conducting business most of the time. Now, granted, I'll tell you I've had my days of doing that, and I probably wouldn't be able to support this project unless I was able to have had the resources in the beginning. And now the persons that are sitting in this room have the ability to invest in projects such as Walker's, I Am Movement, and others to help private sector, to help us move this needle forward. So I want to talk about forms of capital, if I may, because we all talk about money as the only form of capital. But if you think about it, there are multiple forms of capital we must consider. You have social capital, which brings us connections, it's influence and relationships. You have material capital, which are natural resources, building tools, which help infrastructure. You have the financial capital, which we've discussed, money, which we all know, financial instruments, securities, etc. You have living capital, which is carbon, nitrogen, water, soil, living organisms, lands, ecosystem services. We have intellectual capital, which are our ideas, our knowledge. It's our words. Experiential capital, which are our actions, which really have the wisdom of our elders, right? They have the experience. You have spiritual capital. We're not talking about religious, and I'm not here to tell you one way or another, whether that's prayer, that's intention, that's faith, that's karma, or whether you're agnostic. But there is spiritual capital. And then there's cultural capital. There's stories, there's song, there's dance, there's ritual, all of which are being lost in one form or another. So when, capital is just like an ecosystem. Each of these forms of capital play a critical role in order to create either a healthy business or an economy. And they play a critical role in the sense of, and I would argue that you cannot have financial capital without recognizing or engaging in one or most of these other forms of capital. It doesn't exist. You will make no money if you don't have intellectual capital. If you're a lumber company, you can't do anything without the lumber, which is environmental. If you're an oil and gas company, you can't do anything without your living capital, your material capital. We must look at capital differently. We cannot continue to extract one form of capital without damaging and having the need to replenish another form of capital, if that makes sense. Companies and organizations will start to realize that a healthy and holistic economy is based at the end of the day in responding to an individual need. And there's no doubt that corporations and governments and organizations have been seeking to make incremental changes. But I would make the case that there's an urgent need to step back and to think more broadly and holistically. Rather than trying to solve our waste issues or our water issues or our pollution issues that the current system is generating, we need to think more holistically and design. Ask yourself, what would a system or a framework look like that didn't create these problems to begin with? Because until we stop the pollution at its source, there's no amount of offsetting, tree planting, carbon credit schemes, or debt swaps that will solve this problem. The question is, will we be satisfied with continuing to deal with these symptoms? Or will we make the hard choices to tackle the root causes? Because one thing's for certain is that we might run out of time to make these choices. Corporations and developmental organizations are the most powerful institutions on our planet. Businesses cannot prosper when communities and ecosystems fail. And I think that a core part of every business and business plan today should be about having a collaborative, purpose-driven company. It is inescapable priority, in my opinion, as a business leader, that every business today start developing social and environmental responsibility which is an effective tool. So I'm not here to preach at you, and I'm probably telling you things that you already inherently know. And maybe it's uncomfortable, or maybe I'm preaching to the choir. But inevitably, it's going to be how companies care for the earth and the environment and their communities that will be the measure of a healthy balance sheet over the next decades. Walkers and Wired, the I Am movement, others, we're all investing in a new regional and global economy. And the health and wealth of our oceans, our soils, our freshwater systems, our communities, all while creating meaningful livelihoods. We must be more like a farmer. We need to put more back into the soil than we extract from it. Because the hard truth is, we can accept conditions and things as they exist, or we can accept the responsibility to collaborate, invest, and regenerate. Thank you. And please feel free to contact us. More details. I know that I'm running out of time, that's why I'm going to stop, but I'll be happy to share with you later. And I wanted to thank Jonathan, the I Am movement, and all the organizers that put on this event today. It's very powerful, and I'm grateful to be here, and really excited to see what's going on. So thanks.